Following the path of least resistance, I get it. I have a 13-year-old daughter. What if one time, or at some point, a 15-year-old boy is saying, let's follow the path of least resistance, have some fun. As a mother, what do I tell her?
Well,
especially, I was ready to buy 3 books of Sarah's series.
If she asks you that today...
I want to be prepared for it before she asks me.
But we have a very clever way of explaining this. If she asks you that today, tell her you can't give her the answer because you don't understand the path of least resistance. Because your question indicates that you don't understand what we mean by the path of least resistance. So now we're going to explain to you what we mean by the path of least resistance, and then you'll be prepared to know what to do. And the path of least resistance is being under the influence of source and feeling with great clarity which way to go. That's the path of least resistance. So first, you've got to yourself understand when you're under the influence of your own inner being and when you're under the influence of your anger about something. And once you've isolated what being under the influence really is, then you can demonstrate it through your example, because you can't demonstrate it through words. Demonstrate it through your example, that what it is like when you're tuned in and what you're like when you're not, and how eager you are to be tuned in and what you do about it when you're not. Let your children see that you care about satisfaction and that you always lean that way. Let them watch you live in grace and stability and confidence and clarity and love, even under difficult situations. Let them understand what true alignment is. And then you can help them understand that you're following the path of, we want to define, path of least resistance is also the path of most allowance. And the path of most allowance is alignment with source. So, of course, you don't want your children to be out with a bunch of rowdy people who want to do something and it sounds like fun and off they go. You want them to be stable in understanding who they are. You want them to have already identified and isolated within themselves what it feels like to be in alignment. You want them to have their true guidance within them. That's everything that we've been talking with you about since you've been here in this chair. You want to know, and you want them to know, what it feels like when you are tuned into that source energy, because then your thoughts come easily to you and you don't feel conflicted about what to do. The most disempowering moment in time that anyone lives is when you can't make up your mind about something, when you're conflicted or confused about something. That is so disempowering. But there's never a reason for that, because your inner being has already taken all of the data of all of your life, of all of your lives. Your inner being knows who you really are and knows what's active in your vibration, knows what you really want, knows who you really are, and is sending a signal about that that is indescribably powerful and is undeniable. And the only reason that anybody denies it is because they haven't practiced tuning themselves to what it is, so they don't know what it feels like. You want to teach your 13-year-old, 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, anyone who comes to you, you want to teach through the clarity of your example what it feels like to be under the influence of source. And what it feels like is confidence and love. And what it looks like is kindness and ease and power and clarity. It doesn't look like hate, and it doesn't look like insecurity, and it doesn't sound like it either, you see. And so once you give them that stability because you've got it, once you demonstrate it to them, then they'll know what to do, you see. You can't follow them around and give them rules. You can't give them rules to guide their behavior. It's such a wonderful thing. Most physical beings want to take the world as it exists, and they aren't talking like we are about being vibrational beings who are turning thoughts to things. Most people are looking at the things that have already turned out. They think that's reality. The relationships are the manifestations. The car in the garage is the manifestation. The money in the bank is the manifestation. So they want to just take those kinds of manifestations and sort them into piles. And so they say, all right, there's the Democratic pile and the Republican pile, and there's the white pile and the black pile and the female pile and the male pile and the straight pile and the gay pile. There's all these piles. And then they want to judge the piles from their framework of, I'm in the right pile and therefore you must be in the wrong pile. And you can imagine how many piles there are. There's the teenager pile and their parents' pile. There's the employer pile and the employee pile. Lots of different people in lots of different piles with lots of different opinions about the same thing. We want to take all those piles and mix them all up. And then we want to sort them into two piles. Under the influence of source right now or not. And once you figure that out, then you realize there are all kinds of people that you relate to in all kinds of ways. They're in all kinds of different categories that others have put them in. But when you're under the influence, when you're really under the influence of who you are, then the cooperative components of the universe bring to you or to your aligned child those things that enhance their experience.
Awesome.
Yeah.
According to your guidance, I would decide to move on. I know who I am is unconditional love.
You can't do anything other than move on.
Okay. Loud and clear. Got it.
Because you can't stand still.
Okay.
You can't stand still.
Okay. So is it okay I try to get every penny?
You have apparently activated a tremendous stream of shortage consciousness in this room. And revenge. We want to ask you all, what influence are you under when you feel that way? And we want to point out to you and all of them who are on your side that felt way sweeter. Revenge always feels better. Revenge feels better than powerlessness, and it feels better than being taken advantage of, and apparently that's where you all are on the emotional scale. And that's why we said earlier to ask for everything that you think is fair. Do you think every penny is fair?
Of course. Unless you tell me otherwise.
Well, we want you to understand that abundance is flowing to you, and certainly it should flow from that avenue. Certainly it should. We want you, in your moving forward, to acknowledge that things are always working out for you, and that very pushing against that made that feel like relief to all of you is not serving you in terms of your true abundance. It implies that your abundance comes through a source that is trying to cut you off. And so now you're fighting a battle, and we have to ask you, what influence are you under? And what are you demonstrating to your children who you want to continue to love their father? Because they can't push against him and remain under the influence. You've got some choices to make. What do you want to demonstrate? Being tuned into source energy or being on the revenge path? This is big. And you all apparently needed to hear it. We're having fun with you, sorta. But you get what we're talking about. And so we want you to know that well-being will continue to flow to you. And we certainly understand why your heart feels like that right now. But we want you to know that when you're under the influence of source, you don't feel that kind of revenge. Instead, you feel satisfaction and beyond. You feel appreciation for what you have. You feel appreciation for what's coming. Feel appreciation for what still is coming. You don't try to understand what happened. That will make you crazy. But you look for your own stability in this process, and you expect the universe to yield to you. You expect source to yield to you. It's like children. So often parents seem to teach their children, and children certainly catch on to it fast, that all of their abundance comes through you to me. And so it causes children to be extra needy with their parents and whiny to their parents. And if parents give in to that, and maybe they've even promoted it, it teaches the children something that is not true. It teaches them that their source is their parent, or that their source is that person. And that's not accurate at all. Look at the vulnerability that puts you in when you believe that that is your source of well-being, that that is your source of abundance. Look how unstable you are when that source decides to go someplace else. You don't want to encourage that to feel like your source. You want to know that the universe is abundant with well-being that is flowing to you. And of course, you want to advocate for your own well-being. And of course, there will be those who will do that for you. But if you go into any of that encounter and you push really hard against what most everybody thinks you should push hard against, you know who you're really pushing hard against? You. When you push hard against this, look what you're doing to you. When you put pressure on anything, the pressure is on you, you see. And that's not who you are. That's not what this path of least resistance and path of most allowance is. But when you get out there ahead of yourself and you think, but this is the only path I can see, and therefore I've really got to advocate for that path, that's all right too. It's all right to want all that you can get. Just don't ask for every penny, and just don't be vengeful in the process of it. Do you feel like a victim?
I am on the way out of it.
That's a really good thing to ask yourself, because if you feel like a victim, the universe will victimize you. People that you don't even know will victimize you. But if you feel sure, and if you feel good, and if you feel on top of this, and if you know who you are, and if you've got your inner being flowing with you, and you feel solid, then that's the way the universe treats you. Because cooperative components are being gathered around however you feel. And there's no one who doesn't understand why you would feel that way. It's just not good for you. It just doesn't serve you. And no victim ever gets even. You never get even. There's no bottom to that. So right now, you have more control than later. So what do you want as your future experience? You want to push against these two forever? You want to teach your children how to push against them? You want them to be the reason that they're not in alignment with source? You want that to be the reason that your children don't even know about their own guidance system? You want that to be the reason that your children don't have a guidance system that's active, and so they can't tell what they really want to do? Do you want to catch it while you can? It's amazing that you're even close to this. You're going to catch it while you can, and then.
There's a potential regret of feeling I'm trying to clear with you, if I may. The reason I want to continue to save my marriage is I want to be able to tell my children and myself I have done everything possible. So I won't have any regret.
Well, tell them that now, because you have. And then we would like you to tell your children, life is an adventure. And there are so many experiences in life, and every one of them gives us clarity, and we take a bounce. And everything that happens, we become sure and clearer and more. And sometimes when things happen, we don't think we want them to. But when we get down the road a little bit, then we can see clearly the value of it. And so this is not a bad thing that's happening. Even though it feels like it is, this is not a bad thing that is happening.
Thank you. Can I have, during the worst timing of this process, I fell into the trap of, I lost a big sum of money to a phone scan.
That's what happens when you feel like a victim.
Right.
It's all right. That's done. Don't talk about it anymore.
Can I get the money back? How can I get the money back?
Nope.
No? Okay.
Not when you feel like that. When you're a victim, good stuff goes and bad stuff comes.
So if I buy a deck of cards of abundance and money and meditate every day, can I get it back?
Yep. But not from them. It'll come through other sources. When you turn your attention there and you want that, then you lose your connection. Are you following all of this?